Welcome to Fantasy Football Today, presented by Subway. It's now time to refresh your rankings and give you the bust that you need for 2021. I hate using that word. I think it's more like players we want to avoid, players you don't want to draft. You know, obviously cost is going to matter, but I mean, a guy can still play well. He just may not live up to the expectations that we have or some fantasy managers have for him. So I just hate the word.
You're being
bust.
Nice about this.
All right, these guys suck. All right, let's go now to the players that we're trying to avoid. All right, so Heath, you're up first, and you got some headliners on this one, man. You got Josh Allen, Kyle Pitts, and Leonard Fournette. So,
two headliners.
Allen, well, I mean, look, Leonard Fournette was a playoff champion. Lombardi Lenny. It's hard to get past what he did for the Bucs, but a little bit different for fantasy managers. But I think Heath, a lot of people see Josh Allen, see Kyle Pitts, and they're interested in those guys, but cost matters, right?
Oh, yeah, and you look at CBS ADP, and we talk about it a lot of times, quarterbacks are going earlier than we would take them. But it's not totally true when you look at someone like Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson around pick 50. Josh Allen's going 3 rounds before those guys. He's going now 18 picks before the number 3 quarterback, who is Lamar Jackson, 19 picks before Kyler Murray. I have Josh Allen as QB3. I'm not saying that he's bad. I do think the most likely scenario is he's going to regress a little bit from last year, just like Patrick Mahomes did, just like Lamar Jackson did. We had them as busts after their spectacular breakouts because they were first-round picks. Now Allen's a second-round pick, and no other quarterback besides Mahomes is being drafted really in the first 3 rounds consistently. You should not pay that price. It is not very likely he's that much better than Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Dak Prescott, and Russell Wilson. And then Pitts is kind of the same thing. I'm so excited about what Kyle Pitts could be. But he is, for now, still a tight end. And he has to have the greatest rookie tight end season ever just for you to break even at this ADP. For him to make a profit at this ADP, he's going to have to basically be a wide receiver. And that's possible. I don't think you should draft him at the 4 or 5 turn, especially not ahead of Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson in this situation. So it's just a cost thing with Kyle Pitts and a history of rookie tight ends in the NFL.
It's certainly debatable with the other 2 guys. I think Andrews, as long as the Ravens' wide receiving core is so banged up, it's hard to say that Pitts will be better than Andrews. Hawkinson, you can argue because, look, while I'm optimistic about Hawkinson, Dave, you had him as one of your breakout players. It's still a situation where he's playing with Jared Goff, and he's playing on a team that's probably going to be miserable, whereas Kyle Pitts is playing with Matt Ryan, who is a borderline Hall of Fame quarterback, and has featured 2 guys at times, whether they've been healthy or not. We've seen it with Roddy White and Julio Jones. We've seen it with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. He can get 2 guys into a lot of productive situations with Kyle Pitts. But the cost for Kyle Pitts, I still go back to that draft we did with other fantasy analysts. I'm not going to say the person's name, but that he was drafted in the 3rd round. Like, people get so excited about Kyle Pitts, and I'm as excited as anybody. I mean, I watched the guy play at my alma mater for many years. So it's enticing, but I think, again, just pump the brakes a little bit. Still take him as a top 6 tight end, even if you like him 4th.
Right.
But just dial back that he should not be close enough to the other 3 where he's getting drafted like, not Travis Kelce, but more closer to George Kittle and Darren Waller. Calling Leonard Fournette a bust, though, because where he's being drafted, that I have a little hard time with.
Well, there's 12 running backs being drafted after him that I would rather have than him. He's being drafted in round 7. I don't think he's going to be the
round
starter.
7's too high.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be the starter. I think Ronald Jones is. Ronald Jones is being drafted at pick 106, 23 picks later than Leonard Fournette. And I don't really think either of these guys have huge upside because of Giovanni Bernard. They have done nothing but sing his praises, whether it's the beat writers, whether it's Bruce Arians. They've said he's going to have a big role. We know part of the role he's going to have is the passing game, and that was really the only edge that Leonard Fournette had on Ronald Jones last year, that he could block and that he could catch. Now he's probably not going to do those things. And so I see an early down split between Fournette and Jones. There will be weeks when Leonard Fournette ends up in the doghouse and Ronald Jones is a very good running back. There will be weeks when Ronald Jones is in the doghouse. Fournette's a good running back. I don't know that we're going to know before that happens, when it's going to happen. Bernard's really the only Bucs running back I want to draft, and he's still available in round 11.
But that's more PPR. Obviously, not PPR.
Right.
You're taking Leonard Fournette over Giovanni Bernard. All right, so your bust, Josh Allen, Kyle Pitts, mostly cost-related there. Leonard Fournette, same thing, but clearly a crowded backfield for the Buccaneers. Dave, your 3 busts are Aaron Rodgers, Josh Jacobs, and Zach Moss. Rodgers is the one that's going to stand out to a lot of people because he was the MVP last year, and everybody knows he's a Hall of Famer and maybe one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Jacobs, there's another mouth to feed there, and then Zach Moss because of you'll tell us why, but start with Rodgers and Jacobs because those are the two guys I think a lot of people are interested in.
And like Moss's ADP, or like with Fournette, Moss's ADP is just so low that calling him a bust really isn't necessary at this point. I just don't really like having him on any of my fantasy teams, and I'm pretty much at the point where I'm ready to put Devin Singletary ahead of Zach Moss.
So do it.
Aaron Rodgers. I got 4 problems with Aaron Rodgers. Number one, last year, 29 fantasy points per game. The year before, 19.9 fantasy points per game. Number two, his offensive line is changing. It's not as good as it was last year, including at left tackle with David Bakhtiari coming back from a torn ACL. Number three, all the other quarterbacks that you see drafted around Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady has all of his studs back. You see Ryan Tannehill getting Julio Jones. Aaron Rodgers' biggest addition was Randall Cobb. And from what it looks like in training camp, Cobb doesn't look that great. And number four, the schedule is tougher. Last year, he dealt with the NFC South and the AFC South. Those were cakewalk defenses. Now it's the NFC West. It's the AFC North. It's Kansas City. It's Washington. The Vikings are better this year. And you look at his ADP. He's going before 40th overall. I know we don't like to draft quarterbacks early, but that's preposterous. I'm not interested in Aaron Rodgers until at least 50 spots later on draft day.
But I guess, again, when we're looking at our ADP, I think it's almost better if you put it in perspective, which still supports your argument. He's being drafted closer to the top 5 than he is closer to the number 10, right? And that's, I think, better. Whenever I look at our ADP, that's what I judge. The order of the quarterbacks, like he's going ahead of Dak, he's going ahead of Russell Wilson, I think still. That's a little bit concerning for Aaron Rodgers. All right, I'm going to let you guys fight over Josh Jacobs. So you call him a bust. State your case. Heath, you can argue it.
This is another top 40 pick that's going way too high. We don't know the state of this offensive line in Las Vegas because they really haven't shown us in the preseason. There haven't been a lot of outstanding reports about it. They brought in Kenyan Drake. They gave him $11 million guaranteed to come in and be a part of this offense. He's a better pass catcher than Josh Jacobs has been, and he might be better in short yardage goal line situations. Those are high value touches. And then you look at what Jacobs did last year. It was great. It was 1,300 total yards. It was a bunch of touchdowns. He was still one of the most inconsistent fantasy running backs on the planet. 5 games with 15 plus in PPR, and he played nearly the full season. I am not taking him anywhere near this spot on draft day. I would take him after round 5, but I'm never going to get him there because someone else in my leagues is taking him.
It's me always taking him in round 5. And so that's the first point is I'm usually taking him 15 picks after where his ADP is, and that's why I take him all the time. I still think he's a pretty safe number 2 running back. I don't think there's very much risk that Kenyan Drake's going to take a majority of the touches. The Raiders have had plenty of running back production over the past couple of years since John Gruden has been there. I still think Jacobs is going to be the guy that scores the majority of the touchdowns. And he's still a talented running back. So I don't mind him in this range. He's in the range with Myles Gaskin, Mike Davis. He's being drafted ahead of those guys, but only by 4, 5, 8 picks. I'm okay with where he is. I love him in round 5, which is where I usually draft him.
I love him in round 5 too. It's
Right.
round 4 that I have a pretty significant problem with because not just the running backs, it's the receivers that are going there. You could say the tight ends are in a better situation than him if you want to buy into the quarterbacks in that spot as well. The thing that concerns me the most is the touchdowns because Kenyan Drake was very good at that for the Cardinals last year. So if Jacobs loses in that regard, but obviously the passing game as well, which you've never seen Josh Jacobs take that foot forward. I thought that was going to happen last year. Remember I was saying if he gets to 30 catches just based on that, and he did it, but he didn't do it necessarily consistently. And I don't know just how much the Raiders necessarily trust him after the contract that they gave Kenyan Drake, knowing that they're going to have to pay Josh Jacobs coming up. So I'm just a little bit concerned about Josh Jacobs' ceiling. So round 5, I think it's safe, like you said, as a low-end number 2 guy. I don't know if he's a safe number 2 running back, but I just hope that he keeps Kenyan Drake on the sidelines long enough that he can still be successful. So that's my concern with Josh Jacobs as well. And then Zach Moss, I know you said part of a crowded backfield, so let's just move on there. So there's your 3 busts: Aaron Rodgers, Josh Jacobs, Zach Moss. For me, DeAndre Swift, Miles Sanders, and Julio Jones. I know you called DeAndre Swift a breakout candidate for you. Here's my concern with DeAndre Swift. The Lions stink. Their projected win total is 5 games this season, and I don't know if they're going to get to that win total with the team around it. So I was optimistic about Swift, still with his role in the passing game, still being able to sort of exceed what this team is going to do. But if they stink, which is a very highly probability, he's now banged up. And he didn't have to worry about somebody else sharing passing down work with him last year. Jamal Williams is going to do that to whatever extent. And so if he's going in the 3rd round, I'm out. If he's in the 4th round, maybe I'll buy in. But he's getting closer to this Josh Jacobs range for me because I just don't want to trust DeAndre Swift. And I've drafted him in some leagues already, but my opinion on him has changed. So I know you like him. I'm a little bit concerned. Miles Sanders to me feels like Josh Jacobs, a great talent that is going to be in a bad situation because of the competition that he's dealing with. Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott, they're going to play to whatever extent. And my gosh, can you imagine if Jordan Howard plays as well? Ugh, I don't want to see that at all for the Eagles.
Poke my eyeballs out.
The offensive line is better. I do think that Jalen Hurts will help him. but I don't know if he's going to be on the field to the level that we need him to be on the field. And the reports have been miserable for him in terms of his role in the passing game because he can't hold on to the football. So DeAndre Swift, Miles Sanders, 2 running backs that I'm probably not going to have many shares of in the drafts coming up. I'm sure you will with DeAndre Swift. And for Dave, I'm sure you will Josh Jacobs in terms of Heath taking one of your busts. Julio Jones, we talked about it earlier in the show. I'm just concerned about the injury and the lack of targets and everything that's happening with this Titans passing attack. I still think he's a good number 2 fantasy receiver, but I'm not taking him until his ADP. But I don't think he necessarily gets to his ADP very often in the drafts that I've been in so far. I still think people look at him, like you said, Dave, earlier this week, was a guy that was going in the 3rd round. I know you said you would take him in the 4th round.
I would.
For me, I'm out until the 5th round. So if he's getting there, fine. I just don't see that in our drafts. So Julio Jones is somebody that I'm not buying very much stock in this season because 32 years old, only played 9 games last season, banged up already this season. I will let somebody else draft Julio Jones. All right, to recap our bust for Heath, it is Josh Allen, Kyle Pitts, Leonard Fournette. For Dave, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Jacobs, Zach Moss. And for me, DeAndre Swift, Miles Sanders, and Julio Jones. All right, you have questions, we have answers. So thank you for sending us your questions on Twitter using the hashtag AskFFT. Let's get to these questions now. 12-team PPR Keeper League. I can keep 2 guys. Don't know draft position until keepers are locked in. So John, you may or may not know John, his keepers are Alvin Kamara in round 1, David Montgomery in round 7, Josh Allen in round 10. Heath, I know you like that ADP. Aaron Rodgers in round 13. Dave, I'm sure you like that ADP as well. So you got Kamara in round 1, Montgomery round 7, Allen and Rodgers, 2 quarterbacks. Which 2 guys are you keeping? And again, John does not know his draft spot, so keep that in mind if you decide to go with Alvin Kamara.
I'm going to go with the running backs. I'm still going to take the chance on Kamara. If I get the 101 and I have to keep Kamara with it, so be it. There's still a lot of spots in round 1 that Kamara would be a value at. And Montgomery in round 7, steal no matter what.
Can I just make the suggestion that you should determine your draft order before you determine your keepers?
Sure.
Like your league should.
You should
just maybe go make that rule suggestion. But yeah, I would probably go with Kamara and Montgomery. But it's not going to feel very good if you have 101 and McCaffrey's not kept.
And if McCaffrey is available and Dalvin Cook is available and you get the 3rd spot, you still get Kamara back, plus keeping David Montgomery, one of the quarterbacks. I'm going to keep Montgomery and Josh Allen and see what happens in round 1 because you just never know based on this scenario. So I'll keep the best available quarterback with the 2nd best available running back, but at a very good price, and just hopefully get Alvin Kamara back in the 1st round. Next question. It's a poll. All right, I guess we'll just answer based on the poll. With the Sony Michel news, would you drop Xavier Jones for Ramondre Stevenson? Absolutely no, or Heath's favorite, see results.
I do like the see results. I'm curious what the results were now. I'm just so tempted to push it so we can see the results. But I will go with yes, I would drop Xavier Jones for Ramondre Stevenson.
It's not yes, it's absolutely. I would absolutely make that move.
Of course, you have to make this move. Stevenson's arrows pointing up. Jones definitely pointing down. Would you trade James Robinson for Cam Akers in Dynasty? So let's assume bada bing, bada boom is not competing this year and is looking to get players that might be in a better standing in 2022. Would you give up James Robinson for Cam Akers, knowing that Travis Etienne is going to come back next season?
But you also don't know how Cam Akers will come back from the Achilles injury. I would not make this trade. I've got Akers in my Dynasty League, and I am sad about what's happening. If I could get James Robinson for him, I think I'd take it.
Oh, you should. I would absolutely take it. I've got him separated quite a bit. We don't have any history at all of a running back coming back from this injury. We hope it does. But if James Robinson does what he did last year without Travis Etienne, it's not like they're just going to kick him to the curb after 2 years as a top 10 running back in the NFL. He's still going to have. I would bet on right now James Robinson over Cam Akers next year.
Well, it's not only that aspect of it, Heath. You may get something much better than Cam Akers for James Robinson if he has that type of season.
Right.
So you are giving up too soon on James Robinson for who knows what Cam Akers will be. Lily wants to know, in a keeper half PPR league, do I keep Lamar Jackson in round 10, Mark Andrews in round 4, or Chase Claypool in the final round? So half PPR, Jackson round 10, Andrews round 4, Claypool last round. Dave?
This is tough, and Andrews is the one I'm ruling out first because getting Lamar Jackson in round 10 is pretty darn good. I think that's the direction I'm going to go in. I'm going to take the safe route here with the quarterback, spend those first 9 picks on everything but quarterback.
I agree, and I like the last round could be round 18, but when you get past round 10, the round differences really don't mean quite as much. So
take the star and don't worry about the rest. All right, let's go rapid fire on the next 3 here. All right, here we go. Would you trade Raheem Mostert and Kirk Cousins to the Travis Etienne owner for Aaron Rodgers and Michael Gallup? He has Lamar Jackson.
Yes.
Yes?
Yep.
Okay, next one. I'm thinking of going with Jonathan Taylor at number 4 overall over the likes of Ezekiel Elliott, Derrick Henry, and Alvin Kamara. Stupid beyond belief or reasonable? Stupid beyond belief. Next question. Morning, fellas. NFL is upon us. One roster spot available. Bryan Edwards or Terrace Marshall, full PPR. Dave?
Marshall.
Yeah, it's Terrace Marshall.
All right, there's your Ask FFT. Keep those questions coming. Great job, everybody. For Heath, for Dave, I'm Jamey Eisenberg. Thank you for watching Fantasy Football Today, presented by Subway.